It's loading. All right, so here we are. We're live. What is up, everyone? I'm so excited to be here. I personally believe that this is probably one of the best episodes that we've gotten in this series. At least the first half of it. I mean, I know some people have a little bit to say about the ending, but me personally, that moment in the beginning was enough for me to be like, "Oh my god, I am complete. I am content,
Mhm.
and I don't care what happens next. I'm satisfied." But before we dive too into that, I wanted to talk about a little experience I had. Of course, luckily I got to go to Comic Con. Of course, and that was something that I was really excited for. I know there's been a lot of Walking Dead moments at other cons and all that, but to hear, of course, the cast talk about different things like what's to come with the shows and their experience filming the episodes and stuff, it was pretty neat. But before we dive into that, I do want to say, of course, I want to give you guys the space to introduce yourself and let people know where they can find you before we go crazy and have a discussion.
Well, I'm TWD Mombi, and I do reaction videos for the Walking Dead universe. And you can find me on YouTube and on Instagram at the same name.
All right, and baby.
Hmm. I'm Bebe, aka Bebe Rose, and I do many reviews of two shows, MGM show From, and also Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol on YouTube at Bebe Rose 86, and you can follow me on Instagram with the same name at Bebe Rose 86.
All right, and of course, I'm happy to have you guys here. I mean, doing this by myself would be terrible, so of course, I'm glad to have a couple of friends with us. But I do want to dive into again the New York Comic Con thing. It's always great to hear the cast talk, but to hear them talk in person is a whole different vibe. But I think the best part of the whole panel was to see the episode, or at least 15 minutes of the episode, early, because the 15 minutes ended with a scene that I think you guys know what I'm talking about, the reunion. And I know you guys are probably really excited to talk
Yeah.
about the reunion because I got a lot to say about it. But I mean, it was really cool to experience it and to just hear the crowd going crazy, which I did film the crowd going nuts. So we will be putting together a little clip of that
Hey.
for everyone.
Yay.
But last year they showed the finale of Daryl Dixon, so we got to see Carol come in and everyone's reaction to that. So this is of course something that I was really excited for, and I think it was just a whole different vibe to hear them talking about next season, and they're leaving the country, they're going somewhere else. There's a lot to be excited for. So I mean, and of course, Dead City filmed in Boston, which
Mhm.
of course, is kind of where I'm from. So it's something I'm really excited to see in the next season. But I'm excited to just dive into the episode, and we'll talk more later. But we start off the episode with how it ended in the last episode, with Janae threatening or having the gun loaded at all these, civilians, and that's when she unloaded. But I really want to hear Alex. I want to hear what you feel, because we got to see your kind of realization of what was going on in the finale, last episode, and not in the finale, but in the last episode, we got to see your realization of what they were doing, and you started crying. It was a lot. It was a lot, and I get. So I kind of want to hear how you felt, going into this. Like, were you nervous? Like, we know they're not going to kill off Carol, but it's one of those things where it's like when they're put in a situation, you're still going to get nervous. So how did you feel about like just the first couple minutes of the episode?
I did go into it extremely nervous. You can even ask Bebe. I talked to her about it. I
Yeah.
felt like I started to doubt myself. I was like, what if Carol does die and we get a reunion, but it wasn't the one we were expecting? And we see like Walker Carol coming
Oh
up to
my God,
Daryl.
no!
Yeah, like I was actually terrified and
They
like
would never do that.
I was making these things up in my head and I was not ready for them. But I was happy to see how she started to back up in the group. I
Hmm.
was like,
Mhm.
there we go. That's Carol. She's being smart about it. She's going to let the first line of people hit and then she's going to go down with them to camouflage herself. So I was really excited to see that that is in fact what she did. But I was really scared still because I forgot about the injections and I was like, oh my god, what if they shoot her with
Yeah.
one of those
Yeah.
injections? What is that going to do to her even though she's still alive? And I was like, well, maybe they'll miss her. I was like, maybe she'll be so far under somebody that she won't get one. But then it was like, it went right into her. And I don't know if anybody else has had this issue with DARYL DIXON or not, but I have been having a lot of issues with like visualization being pretty dark. So
Yeah.
it was hard for me to see a lot of what was happening while she was in that like mound of people. And I did not originally see her pull the injection out. So my
Okay.
entire reaction video, I thought she
Oh
still had this
no.
injection inside of her. And but through editing, I did realize that she did in fact pull it out. So
And
I was terrified. I was like, what's gonna happen to her now that she's alive and has this shit inside of her? But yeah, I was scared. I was sweating it, and I was really happy to see she got away and took off with cold drone.
and I think that was one of the things that I think some people have had to say, because ever since COVID, of course, they kind of switched from the film to recording digitally, if you will. So of course there being certain scenes where it's some scenes are portrayed a little darker than we're kind of used to, or I don't even know how to explain it, but still, I mean, I do understand what you mean, because when I was going to editing and then when I was making shorts, because realistically, when you're filming shorts, like to grasp someone's audience, you need to have, like, of course, like the colors. It helps. It stands out. But
Mhm.
I'm looking at the bottom of the screen, and it's like a majority of when, especially when Daryl's cooking through the tunnel and taking out these
Mm.
walkers, it's a very, very dark sequence. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like you gotta kind of really pay attention to.
You're
But
like,
I
what's
did
going on? I can barely
exactly, yeah. It
see.
felt like I was watching Game of Thrones, season 8, episode 3. Like it was that dark. But yeah, when she pulled out the injection, I was felt a little relieved. But I kind of want to get your thoughts on what you felt like, what you thought was gonna happen, and that's where you come in, baby. What did you think was gonna happen when she got hit with that injection?
Well, at first, what I said in my mini review, that she was about to get injected, but she will fight off and inject that person who's trying to inject her, and then run off or what have you. But
Okay.
to see that in her, it does, like, how much of, because she did quickly take it out though, but it's kind of like, but even maybe a small amount, did it get into her? And that's still my question. I mean, right now, like, is it in her? Um, but I'm just like so happy that she took it out, because I was shocked. I'm like, oh, it did hit her. And she kind of like, girl, take that off, take that off, take that off. But
Mhm.
yeah,
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 and
It's almost like she waited as long as she could, and then she was
yeah,
just like, "Doink!" Well, like
yeah.
and I
wouldn't
think
quit
she was
looking.
also like, "What the hell is this?" Like, I think she was still processing kind of
Mhm.
what was going on, because I know she did see it beforehand, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you get shot with something, you're gonna examine it and be like, okay, what is this? Like,
Right,
so I
right.
think it was one of those things. I mean, my head went straight to, like, I knew they weren't gonna do it, but it was like immediately trying to look at some optimistic points. I'm like, okay, are they introducing superheroes? Obviously I knew they weren't going to do that, but like the fact is, when these walkers get hit, they get like increased stamina. They actually are running. I don't know what's going on, if their muscles are getting repaired to the point where they're able to run. I don't know, but like they're clearly more enhanced than the other walkers that we're familiar with. So my head was immediately going to, like, maybe there's a positive, maybe her legs aren't going to get us tired. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? But we did see what happens if you leave it in, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
we will get to that.
yeah.
But that was
And
one of the most
North of
visually
60
pleasing
came up with
episodes.
something pretty good. She said, North of 60 said the leather jackets might have helped. So that's true.
That could be
that's
it, but to be
could be.
fair, Janae was wearing something pretty heavy too, it seemed, right? Or maybe I'm
Was
tripping.
she?
I don't know.
Like
Was
what,
she?
like a shoulder, what do you call them, shoulder pads?
Yeah, it was
What
like
have
padding
you,
or
something like that.
even out.
But
But
it also went in a different place, but you never know.
yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, obviously there was a difference where Carol took it out, and Janae, of course, couldn't reach the spot, which I thought was
No.
terrible. Can you imagine that? Especially her knowing what happens. She most likely had to have known what happens. So she, like the last few seconds of her life. Like, I know people like that. That is a terrible way to go. Not only knowing what's gonna happen, but having to experience it. Like, I think she had it one of the worst Walking Dead deaths that we've witnessed. I think it was a
yeah.
lot. It was for sure a lot. Um, but of course, that's when we kind of led into Carol making her escape, which was so satisfying. Her getting
Mhm.
into the car, pulling a GTA move where she just casually pulled the dude off. I don't know how she did it so easily, but it's some GTA shit. Pulled him off, and then you hear Cadrone just like go, 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 like he was rooting for her. We got to see this dude again. Like we have to see him again. I want to start off with that, but of course, when we see the walls break down, it was just so cool because I mean, to see the nest kind of fall apart was, I'm not gonna lie, it was satisfying. But I think this was one of the most horrific moments that we had once the walls fell down. The way the walkers were running after the soldiers, it was terrifying. And in my head, I'm just like, if we got this in season 1, we would be extinct. Like this would not have worked out.
Mhm.
And
Right.
Right. That
did you
was
guys?
exactly what everybody has feared.
Yeah,
Runners. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And those angles that we were getting of all of them running that
Yeah.
fast, it was
Like
haunting.
seeing them lunging on characters, and it was just nuts. But like, did you guys feel a different level of intensity? Did you guys actually feel pure horror? Because there's been times where I've been kind of nervous and scared in this show, but this is like one of the first times where I was just like, oh my god, like this is legit terrifying. Like they're driving like a car, and these little bastards are keeping up. Like, were you guys a lot more kind of? Did you actually feel something? Were you nervous? Were you scared?
I think with me, I wasn't because maybe because I saw World Beyond and I was terrified,
Okay.
like that because it took us the last part of it, was taking place in France. And like I was like, oh gosh, you're dealing with a different type of walkers. And then season 1 of where Daryl had to like fight, some of the walkers who were injected by these things and how fast they were. But you know, I was like, even though this is the type of walkers that I want, but at the same time, I want to say, I take that back, because these
Yeah.
turkeys are running so fast. And I kind of felt like maybe when Carol was driving, that she kind of thought that she was back home and that they were slow a little bit, but not really truly like understanding that you are dealing with a different walker.
Hmm.
You can't just easily like escape with these things. You gotta do the mile run, honey. You gotta practice. You gotta
Yeah.
do laps.
Like they were hitting the Jets. Like I'd probably put in one of these walkers in at running back for my fantasy team instead of some of the people that I have in
Yeah.
with how
Right.
fast that they were, hitting. They were hitting the Jets, man. It was really intense. But of course, it led to them lunging on the people, which I thought was crazy to watch. I thought it was so entertaining, and then it
Mhm.
led to Carol, of course, cutting off the chains off of Cadrone, and then we get another redeeming moment with him where I'll hold him off. He's like, tell Dixon I did it for the boy. And I'm just like, yeah, I love
Oh,
this
my
dude.
heart.
Yeah,
I need to
yeah.
see I need to see them meet up again. Like I love it. Like I just love the redemption. And again, it all leads back to the finale. Again, being able to watch it in that crowd and to see everyone react to him deciding to let Laurent and Dixon live and
Mhm.
instead killing everyone around. Like it's just one of those things where it's like this is a character that like they're taking their time with like kind of like showing that development, but I really need to see it. And we're at a point where we're kind of running out of a lot of the main characters that were
Yeah.
involved with Daryl Dixon. And that's one thing that I do want to talk about. I was pretty upset with some of the choices that they made, such as killing off Isabel. So how did you guys feel about that?
Oh
You gonna
my
go,
heart.
Alex?
Well, when they opened that scene with Losang um interrogating her, it it became very clear that yes, she was going to use the drain cover to slice him in some kind of way. So I was really excited. I was like, there she is. There's our girl. She's got her weapon. She's ready to go. Um, but then I kind of felt like maybe there was like some kind of level ground starting between them, the way that she was discussing how Laurent is just like all the other messiahs, they like Jesus and
Mm.
all of them, they still could be injured and die. And
Mhm.
for them to think that Laurent is any different, it's heartbreaking. Um, and then as soon as I saw her step up and slice him, I was like, yes, we got him. But then noticed it was just his face, and I was like, no, not just his face. And then at first I didn't realize what he had grabbed, but when he turned around and she doubled over, I was like, he did not just kill our girl. No,
Mhm.
he didn't. And then she fell to the ground. I just instantly, I started tearing up. My face turned red. I was just like, no.
And I'm again, I really hate to say this. I hope this was part of the plan the entire time ever since they created season 1. I'd hate to believe that because Carol is back in the picture, they needed to make room and
Mm,
had to get rid of her because she has done a phenomenal job
mm.
and did not deserve that treatment if that is the case.
That can't
And
be the case because how many characters have we brought into this universe in the 11 seasons that we've had the main show?
I
We bring
know,
in 3 or 4 characters in this show and they want to just kill them all off. I
I know,
don't
but
make
now we're
any
getting to the
sense.
point where we had a crew. We had a crew protecting Laurent, and it was
Yep.
fine with Sylvie, of course. Sylvie, we had Daryl, and then of course Laurent, and it's just like the fact that they're wiping out 2 of the people. Now it's just going to be Laurent and Carol and Daryl. It just feels as though it's just the timing is a little off. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe I'm reading too into it, but it does feel like it's like intentional. And again, I don't think it has. I think it just has to do with them. Again, it's only being 6 episodes. It is harder to have a whole bunch of characters in the mix, and
Mhm.
having to make that work. So I do understand if they did it, but it does suck if that is the reason, of course. But that's just kind of how I see it. And I feel like The Walking Dead has done that in the past where they would kill off a character and then because they just introduced another character back in the picture or they introduced a character so they got rid of a character. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, but like it just I couldn't help but to think that that was the reason. Am I alone?
I
I'm
see
sure
what
you're not.
I see what you're saying, because even though I see Isabel's death coming, because I called it out twice,
Yeah.
and but it does kind of suck. Like if you kill her off, and then you kill Sylvia off, then you kill Isabel off, and now like people who don't like Daryl and Carol, it's like here we go again. Even though this is now like the Daryl and Carol show, mind you, but it's kind of like, oh, here we go, Daryl and Carol again. It's like all the main characters that we love from the
Yeah.
spinoff going to get killed off, and here's these 2 again. You meant to tell me you cannot add in maybe like 1 or 2 main characters to possibly go to America. It's like why is always like these 2? But yeah, it does sucks that like again like we talk about like mainly this with fear, especially with fear, like you introduce new characters and you love them so much and then they get killed off because you want to see them succeed, but then it's like then what's the point? And
Yeah.
so
And I think it would have been even better if we just had a couple episodes with Isabel and Carol, like and Daryl, like just having the crew for a little bit. Even if they meant Janae lived for a little longer. That way, like even if Isabel say like tackled Janae off a building and they both died together, but it just feels like Isabel died in vain. Like, yeah, she has done a lot, but I just wish she went out doing something. Because I mean, I just feel like her character has just enjoyed a lot more. And this is a good point. Remind you, OG characters, short lived. Noah, Heath, Denise. But again, these were all side characters. These were side characters. Isabel has started the show and was a main character, like co-leading it with Daryl. Yeah, she was not a title character, but I feel like her role was a lot more prominent or just a lot more important or
mhm.
she was more involved than some of these characters were. And again, I love these characters. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I really did. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I do feel as though it's very different. Because she is again, I'm not comparing her to Glenn. I'm just saying, as for screen time, she was up there with like Glenn or some of those other characters because she was very involved with the show. She wasn't just a
Very
character.
important.
Sylvie
Very
was a little below her, so I can understand that. But she was definitely like the co-lead, in my opinion, with Daryl. Like she was
Yeah.
very involved. So I feel like it's a little different than, characters such as Noah, Heath, and Denise, and even Sylvie. But
And like they
yeah.
showed in the mill, they were a great team.
yeah. And I did Daryl even get to say I love you back?
No.
No.
Yeah, this
I
is
was
what I'm
hoping he
talking
would at
about.
least bow down and like whisper in her ear or something.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like after the kiss, this just all feels so rushed, and it's like as if they tried to get the kiss out of the way to make, the death mean more. And I'm just a little upset by it. Again, I loved the reunion made things a lot better for me. But you just like ending the reunion with Daryl rushing over Isabel's body it's tough. It really is.
Mhm.
But I do want to go piece and piece into the reunion because
Yeah.
we've had a lot of good reunions in this show.
Yeah.
Such as episode 3, season 1, such as the episode after Negan's lineup where Daryl and Rick kind of see each other. And I think that's one that I do want to mention because of the fact that Norman Reedus, of course, when it comes to like breaking character or breaking that shell, he's the tough guy. But when he does break that tough guy exterior and show off just that pure raw emotion, it's heartbreaking because he does it so friggin' well. And to see him do that, look at Carol and then the nuzzle into her, it reminded me of the whole Rick situation. When he saw Rick after the lineup, he gave Rick the gun and like then
Yeah.
he embraced him. Like it wasn't he embraced him like, you would embrace family, and I
Like
just
Terminus as well. And
yeah,
Terminus.
and I
Yeah.
love how he wasn't like just the way he did it. It was oh man. I want you
It's
guys to
almost
talk
like a
about it a
very
little bit.
childlike way for him to embrace other people as well. Because when, like you're talking about with Rick and now with Carol, like he really does nuzzle. Like he gets in
Yeah.
there and he
Mhm.
put his head in her chest and her
He knocks all
shoulder.
barriers down. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
he's 100% vulnerable at that point. He lets
Oh
his
my
complete
god.
guard down. He
Such a
feels
good
so
actor.
protected.
And so much of that was real too. As I
Yeah,
said, at the convention, they got to talk a little bit. I didn't post the whole clip. I posted some of it. But Norman was talking about how like when he was doing that scene, it just and even when he was watching it, it he still cries watching it. And he was crying while he was saying this because it's like Carol, he has a lot of characters that he's been involved with, but Carol is a character that not only does he love, but it's a character that he needs. It's a
Yeah.
character that Daryl needs, and to have that back into his life and to have that sense of security and to see his reaction again, like the barriers being broken down, it makes the scene so much more emotional, and
so much.
again, especially knowing how Norman must have felt, like being able to do the scene with Melissa after all this time or whatever. I'm sure they might have filmed things a little out of order, but this being the scene where they finally reunite after all this time is probably a big deal for people who have known each other for like 15 years.
Right.
So I mean, it just felt like so much raw emotion, and I'm so happy with
Mhm.
what they've done, and
Right.
it's
They
been
don't have
really
to fake
impressive.
it till they make it. They
Hell
like
yeah,
actually are in it because
yeah,
it's just so easy for them to like channel Carol and Daryl at this point because they know Carol and Daryl inside and out and they've had this relationship for as long as you said, almost 15 years now. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It really was very very touching. I want to back up just a little bit because when they showed the guard, or I don't even know if it was a guard, but the guy that
Mhm.
was running towards Daryl, when those variants
yeah,
started running at him,
Yeah.
I was like, don't you dare open that door and let that thing get in there and hurt my Daryl. Like I was afraid for Daryl at that point. um, but once he finally got in there nice and safe, I was okay. But I was like, you better get Daryl out of those handcuffs. And then he was like,
yeah,
hey, let me out.
yeah.
Yeah. He's just
Yeah.
like,
I thought that was so great. That was like perfect timing because immediately I'm like, bro, like I was like talking as if I was like Daryl. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, if you want to live, you'll let me go, and then you just see
Yeah.
the.
And then
I'm like, yeah, that is so funny.
we had another beautiful action sequence for
Yes,
yeah.
him.
and
Amazing
this season has
choreography.
delivered.
And I was really pissed off to tell you the truth, not with the situation, but with the fact, I mean, not with him, but with the fact that he not only was having to fight off these variants, but he was also fighting real people.
Yeah.
I was so upset.
Yeah,
I was like,
Yeah.
why are these real people fighting against him? They should be fighting with him if they want to
They don't
live.
like him.
and that's kind of the thing. I wasn't sure. Like, I'm trying to like I was trying to understand who was who. I wasn't sure if that was like the Nest people or if that was Janae's people. Because at the end of the day, Janae's people kind of like set them like dogs, like sent all the walkers like they were animals. But at the same time, it's I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Nest because they were just,
They don't. Yeah.
like they're so committed to their goal, to this little cult of theirs. So it does make sense if they were trying to stop Daryl no matter what, because they of course they believe in some crazy stuff. So I'm not.
I
I,
mean,
I wouldn't be surprised,
if it
honestly.
was the three of us and any of us were enemies, I would put that shit aside and be like, let's kill these motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like,
Not unless
I
y'all
would
crazy,
not.
then I had to end y'all lives.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's wait
If
till
y'all
the end and then
crazy,
we can fight each other, okay?
yeah,
okay. So I give you that. I give you that.
but it was a really really cool sequence, and of course, again, after what was it, episode 2, where we saw him take out like friggin' 30 people. I just thought it was a really cool moment to be able to see even more action, and to him, taking out all these walkers, and of
Yeah.
course the one walker blocking his range of vision of Carol, and
Yes.
immediately
Mm.
both of them just stop in the headlights. Like they stop like deer in headlights, take time to just realize who they're actually looking at, to make sure it's real. And it just, man, it was great. It was amazing. I
Very
That interaction
emotional.
was one of my favorite interactions that we've had. We've had a lot of really good reunions. This show has done reunions really just in such a fantastic way, man. So it's been great. But we start off again, we end that with going straight to Isabel's death.
Right. We go from this high to
Yeah.
this low.
And it's like they were hitting us with a stick, It's like immediately we're like, oh my god, yeah, we did it finally after all this time, we're back. But then it ends with it goes from the hug straight to him running over the body, and we're like, whoa, like I want to be happy still. Don't do this to me. And again, that goodbye sucked. Again, shout out to the actress that played Isabel. It sucks to see her go, but she did a phenomenal job bringing this
R.I.P.
character. Yeah, fantastic job bringing this character to life. And yeah, again, it sucks, but
Ugh,
she
I was
phenomenal.
gutted. She
Yeah.
was talking about seeing the fireflies in Ohio, and
Oh my god, I hate
oh
it.
my
I
gosh,
hate it.
it
But
was gut wrenching. Baby, what'd you think?
yeah,
Uh, I, man, you know, when she got stabbed and she walked, and the blood trail, right? I was
Yeah.
like, not gonna lie, I hate to compare, but it kind of like, dang, that's what Selena had to go through. I mean, because like, when Selena was shot by her friend, it was like a baseball field that she went from the hotel and whatnot. And then you see Isabel blood or trails, and then just like, and then who are you gonna see? Daryl, bending down, and just like, and that's what I hate. I hate that, that when I speak on things and then it comes true, because I do want her to go to America. I want her to have a life. And and just to see Daryl, and even though I understand why Daryl didn't tell her that he loved her, because every time when I like say, if he says I love you, I'm going to lose someone. But yeah, that was just sad, and it's just such a waste too, because I want to see Isabel even to the next season. And yeah, it did broke my heart. It broke my heart.
yeah.
I
It
loved
was
seeing him rub her
yeah,
head. That was so sweet. How he kept like brushing her head and her hair back, and
yeah. It's like we've seen a lot more of a sensitive side of him, with her being involved, and
we
again,
saw Carol's reaction to it too. She stood
Yeah.
back and
yeah,
she was like, "Wow."
again, to see that was one thing that I really did like, because we actually got again, Melissa McBride is such a phenomenal actress, because we literally are watching her kind of like piece together, like they aren't just friends, they weren't just on a journey together, like she was realizing this is more than just a friendship. And to see her kind of looking and realizing that, I think was really important too, because of course Carol looks at him like a brother, so
Yeah.
to watch your brother lose someone that he cares about, it must suck. So it's on top of that, we get, later on, of course we'll get to the older people later on, but they're keep dropping hints. Oh, we know that you guys, of course, are more than friends, that you guys are, because she thinks she's talking to Daryl and Isabella. She doesn't know anything about Carol. So
Yep.
to hear Carol like know that this is how people visualize both Daryl and Isabel. She's like, damn, it must be serious. And I think that made her become more like empathetic or sympathetic, excuse me, to their relationship, because she was realizing like Daryl lost someone that he truly cared about. And we kind of saw how he coped right directly after the Isabel scene. He just rushes out of there. They just leave.
Mm-hmm.
Isabel's not there. Sylvie's dead. Laurent's missing. They don't care about
Mhm.
anything. He doesn't care about anything else. The nest means nothing to him anymore. It means absolutely nothing because I mean he's like literally he's the epitome of home isn't where home isn't a place. It's who is there. You know, like it's who you
Mhm.
bring with you. So as soon as they're gone, the nest meant nothing. So to see him leave without a care in the world, it's just the coping or just the sadness of it all. It was just so sad. It was so sad.
Yeah.
But how'd you guys feel about the way he kind of handled things? Kind of like not wanting to talk about it, kind of just wanting to leave. And how'd you feel about that? I mean, it fits his
What?
character.
Yeah, it does fit his character. I think with Carol, sometimes in a way that she kind of like thought of herself and the people in a way more than like with Daryl is kind of like, okay, Daryl was here at France and that's it, what have you. There's no connection to people except for he got connection with Carol and people back at home. But I guess when, like you said, once she realized how Isabel had died, his reaction to that and to the boy, what have you, it's like, okay, maybe this is a bigger problem that maybe he does not want to go home. Maybe, which I think he will go home, mind you. Like, I don't know. Like, is he, his home can be anywhere because Daryl is a wanderer. He can make home no matter where he goes. So, but yeah, I kind of like the fact that Daryl kind of like take it back, like, okay, it's not about me. It's not about the people in America. This is about him and who he lost, and he created a new family, and I gotta respect that. And but yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, it was just interesting because again, it was really, really crazy the change of pace because we dive into that whole sequence and then we quickly rushed to like a whole road trip vibe with Carol and Daryl just back on the road again, and of course them kind of like joking around like right off the rip. It's like, bro, like she just died, bro. And we're talking about, Carol's just like, oh, it's so cool to see you with the French accent, which I loved. I loved hearing her joke about that, talking about
Having our
oh,
banter
you're
with them
speaking.
back.
Yeah, she's like, you're speaking French. Like this is something that I never thought I'd see. But
Yeah.
of course to have them interacting again like that, joking around, playing around, it's so happy. I mean, it makes me so happy, to have them back on screen together. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they're gonna conclude the season, considering that like I'm really hoping that we're done. Like I know the nest isn't officially done. Like obviously we got like new people in command, but I'm just like, bro, like what are we doing? Like I don't want them milking this. I understand it's probably gonna end in the
Yeah.
next 2 episodes, but I'm curious to see how they're gonna handle it. Do you guys kind of want the whole nest thing to be done, or do you kind of want to see Lo Sang get what's coming to him?
You know what? As a woman of faith, I understand how there can be a fine line from a person on the outside looking in, that it could perhaps look cultish, or you could mistaken what one person believes over what someone else believes. So Lasang is he's a really good, I loosely say villain, because he's just obviously going off of what he was kind of raised and educated to understand and know. And it's kind of just spiraled out of control. um and on the other side of that, he's a villain to us because he's trying to basically take out the person we're there to save and to bring home. So there's kind of that clash, um that conflict of interest there. um
Mm.
but I mean, I want Daryl to make it home, so of course I want Lisang to go bye bye.
Yeah, and it's like I feel like I can understand where they're coming from with Lo Sang. Like if he was doing everything he was doing, just like trying to keep Laurent safe, understand thinking he was the Messiah or having that belief system, then whatever, sure. But the idea that they were gonna have a ceremony with holding the kid down, having someone that loved him and that he loved bite him to prove a point that he's, immune to the disease, I think is sick and kind of crosses him over that border
So sick. Yeah.
to a villain,
Out of
you know?
control.
And
Yeah.
again, the whole everyone's a hero of their own story. He's not gonna think himself of a villain, but I think from a neutral perspective, even if we were on his side, like if we were watching it from their point of view, to put a child in that position where, just to prove a point, you're gonna get that child most likely killed is pretty crazy to me. So I'm at a point where if they just kind of have him stay in the nest and call it a day, I'd love it. But we know Lo Sang has that mission of getting Laurent no matter what. So I do feel as though it's going to end with his demise, which again, man, like just stop now and you're good. We're good. Like we're not gonna cross paths again. But he's gonna do this to himself and it's gonna end up being pretty bad. But of course, all of this, road trip stuff ended up leading to this, nice little family that we ended up meeting. And I'm sorry, but this show is giving me trust issues.
Oh, as an
Yeah.
Ohioan, I just have to point out that little
Yeah.
that little like Wizard of Oz homage that she was like, well, there's one thing for sure, we're not in Ohio anymore. I
Yeah.
love
But
that.
it's one of those things where it's like I've been hurt by this show so much. The show has given me trust issues, The Walking Dead. So when you see two quiet little old people that are extremely nice, you're not thinking, oh, these quiet old little people are nice, So
The
immediately
Walking
I'm
Dead
like,
has
oh man,
traumatized us. We are
I know,
skeptical and
yeah.
suspicious of everyone.
Yeah, you're looking at this two cute old couple, and you're immediately thinking like if they serve you pie, do not eat it. If they're doing all this, do not touch it, like, stay away from it. But God, it's like, yeah, and yes, I love how diehard The Walking Dead fans are always distrusting new characters. I feel like that's fine. I don't think that's a problem. We have watched even the beginning of this episode. I mean, of the season, excuse me. We had Daryl and Carol. I mean, we had Daryl and Ash run into two ladies, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, these ladies seem nice. No, they wanted to kill Carol and they wanted to do stuff to Ash. Like these were not good people. Like they were different, and I think that's why we're kind of at a point where we can't trust new characters. And it's like you can either not trust them or you can't trust the writers because the writers are most likely going to kill one of them off. That's kind of where you stand. Like there's no in between. It's if they introduce a new character, that's most likely what's going to happen.
I mean, I feel like when it comes down to these new characters that they have given us, it's the most heart-wrenching when it's someone is going to legitimately benefit the Commonwealth or Alexandria. Like when Nat passed away, that was probably the hardest because we knew we could have used him 100%. He would have been blossoming living somewhere like that.
No, and I get that. I mean, I feel like the same thing with Noah, with him taking notes and wanting to learn how to build walls. He was doing something that would genuinely benefit the community, and so when they wipe out, again, brings us all back to the quote, people are resources. People like that specifically are resources. People that are actually there to build a better future are resources. So, yeah, it sucks, but to see this old, the two older couple, to see them and again being super cautious on how it might play out, then them kind of being separated and kind of similar to the whole Ash and Carol situation, they kind of separated them. I was like, okay, like how is this going to play out? But it was really interesting. I thought they were going to be a problem, and I'm glad that they weren't right away, at least. But it's the whole thing, but it kind of led to, of course, the people from Janae's army finding, what we were doing, finding where we were, and we didn't hear the conversation that the old man was having with the soldiers, but it ended with them going away and him kind of like flipping them off. So it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, he's on our side, but they came back and we slowly realized, like immediately when they came back, I'm like, they sold them out. I expected both of the people to be involved with that. I wasn't expecting, honestly, it to be one or the other. What's up?
No, because Dee Dee, she was so funny because you see Theo holding a gun, and Dee Dee was like, "What you doing?" And took what are you doing? The gun away, and
I think she called him a fool too.
I was just like,
she's like, She's like, "You old
Yeah.
fool." She says something. I'm just like, bro, like you're in the doghouse.
I said
I
But
she's a G
loved
for that.
because Daryl and Carol were both at the window watching the gear pull up.
yeah,
And it was hilarious because then we see Dee Dee watching them at the window, but then she like whips around to look at Theo. And it's
yeah.
like, what are
And I
you
thought it was gonna
doing?
be both of them. I thought both of them were betraying, but to find out it was just him, I was like, "Oh, that's a good thing." But I'm like, "Oh my god, like this is not gonna end well." And of course, the whole again more action came through. This time we get to see Carol ripping apart some dudes, but again, it all led to a face to face with Janae, Carol, and Daryl, and that's when of course Carol shot her with uh the little injection, and I'm just here like, okay, like, well, she can just get it out fast enough, right? But when she couldn't reach for it, I was like,
No,
damn,
man.
what's gonna happen? But the makeup or the CG or whatever they did to show her like literally fold or burst inside out was insane.
That was
This was
awesome.
one of the
That was
craziest kills that we've ever seen.
One of the top 10 for sure. That was epic.
Yeah. I mean, we see like little welts or whatever kind of appear on her face just to pop. And we're just like, "Oh my god,
yeah.
what is going on?"
And
Like
her
they
eyes turned
actually
black.
god, it was insane. I mean, it was insane. And I think they did I don't know if someone had too much fun editing this, but they went all out. It was crazy. It was crazy to watch. And I'm trying to think of a couple brutal moments that kind of compare to this because we've had a lot of brutal moments in the show. But like I don't know, like we've had a lot of like even the Noah death. I mean, even the Glenn death, obviously. But I mean, I feel like this is up there with one of the most brutal ends. But how'd you feel
Right.
about her end?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that it kind of boils down to essentially she was killed and then she turned into a walker and then she exploded. You know what I mean? So like I feel like it comes down to what those epic walkers are throughout the universe. And I think I'm not sure everybody has their own rankings, but one of my favorite walkers of all time was the barnacle walker from Oceanside. And I felt like that barnacle walker and Janae were like neck and neck for me because I could not believe the veins were pulsing. Black was running through her eyes were turning black. She was convulsing all at the same time while you could clearly see she was still trying to keep some kind of humanity and get this thing out of her back. It was just like, wow. And it was almost like poltergeist-ish, like when she was on the ground,
Oh
it was like
yeah.
she was possessed. Yeah, it was very well done. And the fact that this far in the game, that this universe, the people that make this show and the people that do the makeup and the people that do the editing can still surprise us like that and get us on the edge of our seat and get us to be so hyped up and excited for something like that and still enjoy every bit of the beauty of it just says a lot about these people and it says a lot about this universe.
Yeah, no, I agree. How'd you feel about the death, baby?
Man, it was awesome to me. It was awesome. But the look on Carol's face though, is kind of like, Carol, that could have been you. If she hadn't taken
Yeah,
that thing out, that she would have been like that. Now, like we know like what it does if you not dead at all. That if you alive and I mean, it can kill you. I mean, she popped a pimple for crying out loud. and but the thing is that before that, when she told Carol that, do you know what it's like to see someone that you love die in front of your face? I'm like, you talking to Carol. One thing. It's like that's why
yeah,
I love
I
when
hated
when
that.
Carol, yeah, when Carol chuckled, I'm like, she's seen it. She's seen it all.
She
She
didn't even
been in this.
explain herself either, which I loved.
Yeah, it's just like, and so what? So does that mean that you got to be like this, like with Negan? Just because someone you love died doesn't mean that you just can't do what you want to do, you know? But I thought that was just too early in the game for Jeanette to die like that. I thought it was just too early. I thought she probably would die
I get
maybe
that.
season 3 later on, keeping her. But I kind of was disappointed that Jeanette had died in this episode. I thought that what for? I want to see more, maybe her and Lo Song, you know, working together, stuff like that. Then you can, kill the heifer.
Like, I'm
Okay.
kind of glad. Like, part of me is happy that it kind of worked out because I'm like, maybe maybe things will work out. Like, maybe we can just start fresh. Getting rid of Janae, maybe a little saying. I was hoping that it would all happen that way. Like, the faster it happens, the faster we can just go on our new journey with just Carol, Daryl, and Laurent. But I'm with the way it was all handled. Of course, now we're actually on the road, and now we have some time with just Carol and Daryl, which is cool. But of course, we're gonna end up eventually finding Laurent. Um, I'm nervous because I don't know how it's
I mean,
gonna.
we hope they find them. Daryl's
If,
like, I don't know where they went.
yeah, but I think they'll definitely end up finding him. Definitely in the season. I hope. Who knows? It could be like the ending of the you know, end of season 2. We end up finding them pretty late. But God, I'm so bad with names. The character that is with Laurent, what's his name?
Follow.
Falou. Okay. I don't know if
Follow.
he's gonna. I don't know if they're gonna end up.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's gonna make it out of this. Again, I'm trying to imagine just Carol, Daryl, and him on the road. But I don't know. What are those eye rolls for? What do you think?
They've already killed an F. I want Follow to
I'm
go.
sorry. This show is. They don't care.
He has obviously shown his allegiance. He obviously cares. I don't know. I feel like I don't like to really compare a lot of characters, but I feel like this is one of the more father types that we've been missing in this show. And he just seems like he genuinely cares and that
Mhm.
he would pull his weight and that he would always be that person on the front line. And like he's just ready to live. He wants to live his life. He's not afraid to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I do want to mention this, of course. Oh, we'll get to that. But I was wary of the old man mentioned helping the enemy from the different wars, and he said a line twice in this episode. He was talking about how his father would give food to soldiers. Didn't matter if it was enemy soldiers or what, but soldiers, in order to get by. They do what they needed to do in order to get by, whether it meant giving, stuff to people that they didn't like. If that kept their safety, that was what was going to keep their farm alive for generations or whatever. And after he turned in Daryl and Carol, he said the same thing. He's like, "We're doing what we need to survive. Doesn't matter if we need to do it to enemy soldiers." Again, as soon as that line was delivered, just like north of 60, I was a little wary of the situation. Did that like connect to you guys or anything? Did you guys kind of notice that, or did you guys pick up on that?
No.
No.
I picked up on
Mm.
it a little bit, and then I especially connected the dots towards the end when Daryl turned around. And he was like, "What'd they offer you?" Like he just immediately knew, like this was obviously a side doozy here.
Yeah, not for sure. And then this is probably one of my favorite sequences. So of course, we have the old man when he was trying to help Daryl find whatever Daryl was looking for. He said, "Okay, yeah, I'll go put on my walking shoes." And then Daryl pushed them on a cart the entire ride, the entire time. But while they're kind of going up on the wheelbarrow or whatever, um, you just see all these neighbors that are barricaded in. He just is like, whatever, I'm gonna let it be. It's a little interesting to still see the people that I've lived with for all this time. And to see him, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Smith, how you doing? Like, how's the wife treating you?" Just like the way he was talking, it was
Yeah.
so funny. Like, it's always good to get some comedic relief in this show. Did you guys think that was a good break from seeing Isabel die? The comedic relief,
That
no?
and that and Carol and Daryl bantering when working on the car, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? What?
So
Yeah,
like
he's like, "What
what?
you say?"
What?
Again, it's
You're too much.
the sibling relationship it's so noticeable, and I love it, and this is what I wanted to stay as that, you know what I'm saying? Um,
I actually, in my reaction, I was like, what did this man have to do to get Daryl to actually agree to push him in this wheelbarrow? Like I was awestruck. I was like, what is happening right now? He went to put on his walking boots just to get a ride. And then it blew my mind that once they finally got there, I was like, all of the stuff that you're going to need from this car, why don't you just take that car? I was so confused. I was like, make it make sense. And then once they showed the wheelbarrow, once they got back to work on the other car, I was like, you see all the stuff you took out of that car? You could have just taken the other car. I was really hung up on that. They should have just taken the other car.
Yeah, now I can get the frustration behind that. But one thing before we kind of close off, there was one thing that really irritated me in this
What?
show, and at the end of in the finale of or episode 5 of season 1, we have that moment where Carol is on the phone with Daryl and says, "Psh, is here," and we're like, "Oh my god, it's Rick! It's got to be Morgan!" But then again, "Psh, is here." So we're all like, "Oh my god, what does that mean?" The
It was
reveal
came
is gonna be
back.
insane.
That's what it
Yeah,
was.
but still, I mean, they know exactly what they were doing with that shit. And I am so sorry, but them saying when Daryl says, "Oh, you said someone was back," and her saying "hope," I'm sorry. That bothered me a lot. Like we
Me
could have
too.
just gone without it. Like in my head, I'm assuming that this is all happening before Rick comes back, but that was yeah. And you said I think Carol lied about that, and I'm gonna be honest. Someone said that in my comments as well. Someone thinks that Carol is lying, because for whatever reason, so they can find Laurent. I don't know, but
Maybe that's the
realistically,
reason why.
I don't
I can
think that that's the
understand that.
case. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just don't see that happening. I mean, I think Carol knows. Carol has been so manipulative this season, but again, I think when it comes to
Yeah.
Daryl, that's not what she's gonna do. I don't think Daryl. I don't think she would do that to Daryl, especially where they're at right now. And if she did, I think that's not right. But I mean, the only thing in my head is like one that's just kind of bad writing. I mean, I just do not like that unless they kind of come out and say that she's full of crap and she's lying. I just was not satisfied
I
with them
was
saying
very
that.
upset about it too. Like
What's up, baby?
the first thing she said was it was a feeling, and then she said that all of her trauma was coming back and the ghosts were haunting her. And so while I was editing my video, I kind of came to a conclusion that maybe what she actually said was Sophia came back. So, like, because we've had Sophia haunt her more than one time in the last 4
Mm.
episodes. So I
Yeah,
was like, well, maybe that's what she tried to say. And then she was just describing it to Daryl as a feeling, as, all these different, she got too comfortable and things came rushing back.
yeah. I don't know. I
Well,
mean,
well, it just seemed like that can make sense, but it doesn't make any sense because she contacted Daryl, somebody's coming back. And I because there was a part in there where he said he don't want to take that responsibility with Laurent, because he was so down and out with Elizabeth, not Elizabeth, Isabel dying and what have you. It's like,
mhm.
what if Rick did come back and she wants to tell him? And because he don't want to take that responsibility and that with Laurent, that he would just drop and leave. It's kind of like, oh well, that was nothing. And it's like it's just some ghost haunting me and what have you.
Yeah.
Let's just go. Um, but if it comes back that, if Ma, God dang. I'm sorry, she's
Yeah.
just yelling. but if it comes back that, that Rick is there, then it's kind of like, Dad, Carol, why you have to lie? Just say Rick and whatnot, but let's get Laurent and do what we gotta do.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I mean, what else are we missing before we close it out?
Carol have her PTSD.
Yes. So
The
we've had
barn
multiple
door.
moments, but again, it all comes down to those wooden barn doors. And anytime we see whether so it turns out that the actress that played Sophia in this show, like they had like a stand-in, of course, was just a French actress that they hired that didn't speak a lick of English. So at the panel, I think Greg Nicotero was saying that they were trying to give her like directions, and it was hard to kind of like communicate with her, but she did a phenomenal job. And it was just really interesting to hear
Wow.
them say that they had a whole stand-in for this character, to bring Sophia back to life, or however you want to say it. So I did like the way they kind of described that. And of course, the flashbacks
Yeah.
have already been enough, especially in the beginning, because it's like for people who haven't seen The Walking Dead and again are just diving into Daryl Dixon, I think it's perfect, getting to know this character a little more, and by showing some of these scenes makes it more real, makes
Yeah.
it, instead of word of mouth, being able to experience it with the character is far more traumatic and far just makes you more connected with that character.
Yeah.
So I did like I have like that they're showing, like visually giving us what she's seeing instead of just having her like kind of like zone in and out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was still upset that we didn't get to see Ash.
God, that's gonna be so
But
bad.
but I also um I kind of rolled my eyes at the end because the Nest and the Gruyere are basically teaming up now, and it's like I don't really want to see this story anymore. I'm done with them. Let's go home.
That's
I can
where I'm
understand that.
at. But yeah, I mean, we got another episode in left. I mean, it's gonna be great. He said, how do you think they'll go back to America by the end of season 3 or 4? I don't know, man. I think this is gonna be one giant road trip, but it should be interesting.
They need to stop
Um,
at season 3. I'm sorry.
you
There's
think so?
no more story to tell. I think so. They need to stop at season 3. I mean, to me, I mean,
You
I
don't want
mean,
them to milk it?
we got Daryl. No, I don't want to. I don't want to milk it. I just like to think that
I get
season
it.
3 should be like, should be it. Unless there's something's going to happen, but I think there's not any more story to tell.
I
I
personally
just want
believe
to go
there's
back.
more. I personally believe there's more story to tell with Dead City than there is with Daryl Dixon,
True.
because being in the city, I think, gives them so much opportunity to explore. Because the city's huge, so I think it gives them so much
Mm-hmm.
to work with, personally, than what they're doing with you know Carol and Daryl. And I
It's
think if they are to
yeah.
continue Carol and Daryl, I hate to say this, I just don't know how they would do it decently with Laurent being in the picture, because having a child in the show kind of like limits what they're able to do. Like they can't bring a child on these adventures doing crazy crap all the time. So unless they kind of age him up a little bit or do something, I don't know. I'm kind of curious on how they're gonna handle the whole situation.
Yeah, and also too, I just want
Me too.
Daryl and Carol's story to be at rest. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, let them be
You know,
happy.
it's
Yeah,
just, yeah, it's just like, we got Rick and Michonne, their characters, the rest, which we kind of coined that as the final season of The Walking Dead, with them two. And I just think that with Carol and Daryl's story, with Laurent going back in America season 3, just like let that sit in, and then Dead City, let that's you know what? You want me to be honest? I just want The Walking Dead go night night. We
really.
have fun. I I really truly I love the show. Mind you, I do love the show. I'm talking about with the main characters. I don't care if they do spin-off with other characters, like,
Okay,
whatever in France or what have you. But with our main people, hey, y'all did
I
y'all
get
done.
it. I get it. I think the spin-offs are always fun, but for some reason I'm just more
Mhm.
invested when it is the OG characters or characters from the show, being involved. Like with Fear the Walking Dead, I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it much more when Morgan was involved, when they made him a main character. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it. When Dwight joined, I loved it. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing all these familiar faces kind of jumping back into the mix, it just made me happy. But
You know what?
and when it comes,
I met Lenny James in May, and one of the things that he told us was actually he was the very first person to get a role in The Walking Dead. They actually gave him the script, I think a year or two before they started making the show. The whoever it was handed him the script and said, "Hey, I think you'd be great in this show that I'm writing. So read the comics So he read all the comics, and he was the very first person to ever sign on to the project, which I thought was really cool.
I believe it. No, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Morgan is awesome. Clearly one of the best characters. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Do we have anything
Yep.
else we want to say before we close it out,
Mm-mm.
baby?
No.
All right. Well, where? Cool. What's up?
Somebody said Heath's come back in season 3 as a villain.
No, that's when we might have to end the show. That's when we start running out of ideas. But yeah, I do want to say again, thank you guys for joining us. Again, another hour stream. I think this is perfect for us. You know, not too many people, but I think it's perfect that we do have 2 guests, both Mombi and Bebe. So again, I appreciate you both pulling up. But where can we find you guys?
Instagram and YouTube at the same name, TWD Mombi, every Sunday right now.
Perfect. And Bebe?
Same thing, Instagram, YouTube, Bebe Rose 86, mini reviews, come maybe Wednesday, Thursdays, I don't know.
All right. And of course, you guys can find me over here. Reactions, all this stuff, you know. TikTok, we just hit 100,000 followers. So make sure you guys are over there for exclusive reactions and stuff. And again, thank you, you know, Heartless Camo, North of 60, Diane, just everyone that is pulling up to the live streams. I do appreciate it. And we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.